We told you yesterday about the Toronto Maple Leafs giving up a lot of high danger chances lately. And last night, Toronto gives VGK 15 high danger chances on 25 shots as the Golden Knights capitalized on most of them. 5-2 the final. VGK with a win at the Fortress. More coming your way next right here on Lockdown Golden Knights.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Tony Cardasco and Chris Goalie from Las Vegas. I'm a veteran sportscaster, marketing consultant, and Chris is the collectibles expert and editor for the Hockey News and owner of Silver State Cards and Sports. Coming up ahead today, Adin Hill is on a roll. And also, it is awfully quiet around here, so let's have some trade chatter. We are brought to you today by FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. So VGK gets on the board early, Chris. Led 3-0 after one, increased that lead to 5-0 in the second, and coasted to another home ice win. After watching the Maple Leafs defense, it's really leaky. And they are, to me, Edmonton East, right? Because they have to outscore opponents, I believe, to win. And VGK with goals in that contest last night from Tomas Hertl, from Eichel, who had his 20th. Brett Howden, we said we'd hear from him again. Noah Hannafin scores, of course, in a more comfortable spot now. Tanner Pearson scores. Pearson on the top line to counter everything we were talking about just, again, rotating so many players on that top line. Joseph Woll got pulled early after giving up 3 goals on 7 shots in the first period. Did you see Craig Berube, the way that he welcomed Woll back to the bench? He just gave him a pat on the shoulder, and he just, everything will be okay. And then Joseph Woll sits down, and tears are just streaming out of his eyes. And I saw a replay of it last night, and I was pretty much just surprised. Again, a young goaltender, and they still had to handle him with kid gloves.
I didn't catch that. That's interesting. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I just didn't.
No.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I just found it on Twitter there. Okay. I mean, listen, the
Is
kid's
it on
got
Twitter?
passion,
It's on Twitter.
and
Okay. Then it's official. It's like
it's
like
official,
Facebook.
no.
It's like Facebook official, man. In
Exactly.
relationships,
Exactly.
their relationship is Twitter or X official.
I mean, so I think that explains why Berube definitely went over and gave him, a little attaboy, basically, because Berube probably knew he was going to be upset. So, I mean, you got to credit Woll, I guess, for caring that much. And I mean, listen, it wasn't the Leafs night. Let's start there. The Golden Knights certainly suffocated them pretty early, although Toronto got a lot of shots, and credit Adin Hill for doing a great job at keeping things in the Golden Knights' favor. That game could have gone many different directions had he not had a strong first and second period. It felt like the penalty that the Leafs got, was it the boarding penalty early on? It felt like that right there was where it was going to fall apart. The John Krok board against Ivan Barbashev. It felt like right there, that moment is where they came unglued. And right after that, of course, is where the Golden Knights took their 3-0 lead and didn't look back after that. So credit the Golden Knights for coming in early and finding ways to get goals and keeping the Leafs off the board, who have a lot of offensive firepower. But you talked about the Leafs, needing to basically get into more track meet type of games. Remember, the Leafs, as of yesterday, probably today different, as of yesterday, were the 11th best defensive team as far as goals given up in the National Hockey League. So, again, this is a different Leafs team than the past. I think they're a little more sound defensively, at least historically speaking, than the Oilers have been.
Yeah, but just keep an eye on that again, because they're fading there.
It could change down the stretch. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, they're giving up too many of those high danger chances, as we illustrated yesterday on the show. And VGK's, let's say Bruce Cassidy's power play unit is definitely buzzing of late, and Jack Eichel scores on yet another power play opportunity. Big night for Eichel. Also, that dime of a pass that he made from his knees, right? Wasn't it to Hannafin who finished the play?
Yeah, it was the ham. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's everything is clicking for Eichel today. He had his cut me Mick moment in the second when he took that puck right under his visor. That was just one of those ones where you just deflect the puck, and it was unfortunate how that played out. But it looked like Eichel was okay. I thought he was concussed at first. The way he was, the way he reacted to taking that puck under the visor, just to the left of his eye. Thankfully, it was nothing more than. I'm guessing today it's going to look a little different. We'll see how he looks if he skates today, or obviously when he skates tomorrow. But a lot to like about that game. Hannafin rounding into form. Nice to see, of course, Eichel doing Eichel things, and really the team doing the rest of the little things. Credit Zach Whitecloud for answering the bell early. I wonder how that came together.
Yeah, that's a topic that I wanted to discuss.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
go ahead.
let's just go back a little bit. So Matthew Nyes retaliates from that shot that he took from Zach Whitecloud.
Clean shot from Zach
knocked
Whitecloud.
him out of the game back in November. So last night, real interesting, because did Bruce Cassidy intentionally put Whitecloud out there on the ice to start the game? He's the second pairing defensively, knowing that Whitecloud and Nyes would tangle and settle things. And then Nyes absolutely demolished. I don't even have a better word. I can't think of many other adjectives here that would describe Whitecloud getting wiped last night. He just got pummeled. And they're like, oh, fans are like, oh, yeah. But Whitecloud took him down at the end. No, he fell on top of him, for crying out loud. He was concussed, I think. But yeah, so does Cassidy, knowing the history there, put him on the ice, or was there a pregame discussion? Something had to give there, because they knew to put Whitecloud out there on the ice at the start of the game when typically he's in the second pairing.
Yeah, but pairing, it doesn't matter what pairing or what the line combinations are. It's, it's whoever Cassidy decides to put out there, and then the rotation goes from there. There definitely was some pre-meditation, no doubt about that. There had to have been going into it, because you don't see him just literally drop him like that, whether the coaches talked about it or something in pregame, either a text conversation. But listen, credit Whitecloud for answering the bell. Let's be fair about that. Credit Whitecloud for answering the bell, and then it was all bells after that in Whitecloud's head. Nyes beat the pulp out of him, call it what it is. But again, I thought Cassie described it well in the postgame about two men settling things and moving on. It's more admirable, I guess, to do it that way instead of looking over your shoulder and maybe delivering a dirty hit or something like that. So, it's the NHL code, and credit both players for handling their differences, if you will, the right way. And it definitely gave the arena juice. I mean, yeah, listen, Matthew Nyes won the fight, no doubt about that, but it still gives juice to all the players. It gives juice to the fans. It gets everybody pumped up. I can't remember ever seeing a fight right at the puck drop to open a game like that. I don't know if Ryan Reeves ever did that or not. Something he probably would do, it sounds like, but outside of that, I can't imagine it happening. And listen, it's the fun, brutal part of hockey.
Yeah, and there had to have been a lot of talk, or there's definitely a conversation going on to put those two on the ice to start the game. Absolutely. So that was pretty interesting. I wanted an effort play that I saw that really stood out. The goal by Tanner Pearson, top liner now on the first line, of course. But Tanner
even called him a fourth liner in the presser yesterday too. It's even funnier.
I know. Thanks for listening to the show, Bruce. We appreciate it, because we were talking about that revolving door on the top line. He puts Pearson out there. But Pearson just kept whacking at the puck in front of Anthony Stolarz. I thought that there might be, there was a little bit of a delay and an official's review about, any goaltender, a challenge about any goaltender interference. And I looked at it a few times. It was just a good effort play, I believe, by Pearson, by just keeping the puck alive and just kept whacking at it. Whack-a-mole, right there in front of the net.
Eddie Olczyk's usually better on the call, but I didn't like his perspective and his partner's.
What did he say? Because I was at volleyball.
They were both extremely adamant that this puck was cut, that the play was coming back, and no goal on the play. And
what was the rationale? Just curious.
Their rationale on the broadcast was Pearson pushed the glove back to wedge the puck loose from under Stolarz. But if you watch the play, there was a great overhead shot where the puck goes from the glove, kind of somewhere in that area, loose before he even gets hit or anything like that. And it goes right around his armpit. And at that point, when the puck is visible, when you can see the puck, the players and the goaltender have an equal right to it. There's going to be competitive contact at that point. And yeah, did Stolarz get hit on his glove and get moved a little bit? Absolutely. But the puck was loose at the time. So Stolarz had an opportunity to play his position. Tanner Pearson had a 50-50 puck, and Tanner Pearson won that one. And I don't blame Toronto for challenging it in the circumstance. What do you got? You have absolutely zero to lose by challenging there. But when you watch it closely, and that there was one overhead, it was clear as day, in my opinion, that it was a good goal. And of course, Wes McCauley, drags it out a little bit. I thought it was going to be no goal the way he said it at first, but it obviously was a goal at the end. Real fast, just a couple news and notes here. I got the report card up. Noah Hannafin, Tanner Pearson, Eichel, Tomas Hertl up top. On the bottom, Pietrangelo, Haig, Lavoie. Lavoie got hurt, so we'll give him a pass. Upper body, unknown, but Cassidy made the comment. We'll find out how long tomorrow, meaning today. So it sounds like there might be a timetable associated to Lavoie's upper body injury. And then Nicholas Waugh, Victor Olofsson round up the bottom four, I guess you can, bottom five, I guess you can call it. So, yeah.
And that's it. Okay. You just said some news and notes, and that's it.
That's it.
News and notes.
Okay, new and no.
Okay, and VGK's defense played very well. They got a good start early, so that was something that was much needed from VGK. And yes, you say Toronto is one of the teams that plays well defensively, but again, when you look at analytics currently and over the course of the last 40 games, the high dangers are just really going to come back to haunt them. In other words, Mr. Golick, take the overs, man, with this Toronto team.
I said 5-4. I mean, imagine having to sweat that. I gotta think they hung a 6.5 out there on that game.
It was a 6, I thought.
It was a 6. Okay,
I
didn't check that. I did look while we were recording, but I didn't bring it up. I think the goal like minus 150, which I thought was.
It went up to 170 at some point.
That's too much. So, I mean, the Leafs hadn't lost a game in regulation in 6 or 7 games.
Yeah,
that's interesting. But the sports books knew. I mean, it was the right line. It was the right line. All the money. It seems like this is a game where the sports books knew what was going to happen. They kept moving the line, hoping they would get two-way action. But this is a game where the public probably cleaned up. And good. Golden Knights, they're getting warm again. They're getting hot again. I said after the game, it feels like this is the 2023 season where the Golden Knights got real hot after the All-Star break.
Yeah,
and it kind of feels like that's a lot of games right now at the Four Nations. Fine, whatever. They're winning them. They got to win the games. I don't care what the schedule is. They're winning the games. They're putting the right efforts in. What?
Coming up next, I said home ice is very strong. Coming up next, Adin Hill is in his zone. We'll talk about that when we return right here on this edition of Locked On Golden Knights. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there is no better place to get into the action than at FanDuel. Why? Because it is America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off and you still want to make a bet on the fourth quarter and a comeback and all that, you can stay into the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I really do like the live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game excited. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking up a player to hit a clutch 3, you need to get on to FanDuel, and you never feel like you missed any chances there to pick up some money. Plus, the app is so easy to use, and when you win, and you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can win $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's right. Just visit FanDuel.com, and you can join today. That is FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. We are back on this edition. Boy, this week is just flying by. It's nice to wake up to a little. Yeah, that too. Okay, I'm with you on that. But really nice to wake up to sunshine now. Sunshine, Mr. Sunshine, it's you. Um,
It
and
rained
of
last
course,
night in clouds. It's sunny now, but we had a
well,
little
yeah,
rain
there's
last night.
sun out this morning, and hopefully the fog does not roll in because
I
that is
missed the
a
fog.
that's a feature that you can get nowhere else but here on Lockdown Golden Knights. And
I think we record 7, the way the lighting is, that's probably had something to do with it.
another feature is WTF. That's on Fridays where we get all your comments about this team, and on Saturdays sometimes it's the Chris times Chris Jr. show. Make sure you go to YouTube and check it out there, and make sure that you subscribe to our program. Adin Hill, he's going to make it difficult thinking about this as the game was progressing last night. When it comes to the bargaining table this summer, oh boy, Hill's making a very strong case. If he is not extended beforehand, it's going to get really interesting around here. Since the Four Nations face off, Hill 3-0, 87 saves on 90 shots. He has really been doing well in the zone, gave up a couple of goals last night. And the thing that stands out about Hill was just his confidence coming back from Four Nations. We cited that interview after his first game back where he sounded like so confident. And just, again, we noticed a little bit of a difference with him and just the way he was just very confident. Have you noticed? Because he said that he faced a lot of the world's top players in practice every day at the Four Nations. Have you noticed? I know that you were talking a lot and a little bit critical about his technique before the Four Nations. What has he changed? Has he changed anything, or is he just coming up with, as Cassidy would call it, the next save?
I don't know if anything has changed or not. My tell on Adin Hill from the videos and stuff that I posted was that he was basically framing, and it was predictable where he was going to go. He was having some strange. He was reading the plays strange on the near side, on the short side, and he was almost putting too much respect on a player who was below the goal line, 6 feet away from the net, and not positioning himself for the shot that was coming. And then there's other times he was absolutely selling out on the first shot in an odd man situation. If you look, go back to that Dallas Stars overtime goal, the Rangers game, there's a bunch of opportunities before the All-Star break where Adin was just reacting. He was guessing. There you go. A hitter in a slump guessing where the pitch is going to go versus trying to react and just have a natural reaction. So again, I'm not a goalie coach by any means, but it's just my observations. And I think now Adin Hill has gotten more comfortable in reacting to what's in front of him versus guessing what's going to happen. I think that's a big part of it. You mentioned 90 shots, 87 saves, and 9.67. I was literally tweeting that right as you said that. It's so funny, but 0.967 save percentage, undefeated since the Four Nations. And I think this is where you have to credit Adin Hill's practice habits at the Four Nations. I think he was probably working his butt off in the Four Nations in facing shots from Crosby and McDavid and McKinnon and that just dream team of a lineup, so to speak. So this is where the Four Nations, I mean, maybe it was a perfect storm, right? I was extremely critical of many aspects of the Four Nations, and we're still paying the tab around the National Hockey League for players coming back from injuries and such. But in Adin's situation, this might have been the best case scenario. He gets his confidence. I mean, yeah, he doesn't play any games, but he gets his confidence having some great practices, has a little bit of fun. He gets to maybe take a little bit of the pressure off from being in Vegas for a little bit and comes back re-energized and recharged. And he's going to be a big part where if this Golden Knights team does make a run for a cup, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that Hill is also doing a great job coming into form while not having a contract. It's got to be distracting. It's got to be distracting.
Has to be. And you had outlined that they've been negotiating for a while. Any update on where negotiations
I haven't
are
heard
now?
in a minute, but the only thing I did hear was far aparts, and I have no specifics to support that as far as numbers or anything like that. But this has been ongoing, maybe a lot longer than people think, like for a big chunk of the season, going back to October and November. And it's at the point now where I think Adin Hill, if he signs now, he's on the Brett Howden train, so to speak, right? I don't think a contract can come out that would be in Adin Hill's best interest between now
No,
and the end of the season. I think Adin
no.
Hill needs to bet on himself.
He needs to
And
play the waiting game. He does. He
I think
does.
so too. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
unless if the Goal Knights come back and say, hey, 3 times 4.5, if they match his current AAV for, let's call it a 3 to 5 year term, I don't think Adin Hill may not turn that down at this point.
No, come on.
3 times 5,
Right,
3 times 5,
right
you think
now,
he turns down?
okay, just in defense of his case, playing a career high in starts, right, between the net, we talked about that, between the pipes there, net, and then also again, just the way he's come on late, and so I mean it's wavered, and I would have said probably a box of rocks and 4 million at one point, right, when he was slumping, maybe 3.5, right, AAV. Now, the way that he's playing right now, at this particular moment, he's a $6 to $7 million man. He is. Right now, he's at least 6
I don't
based
know
on the market.
how. So, two things here. One, I think both of us need to remind ourselves that we need to put more respect on the fact that sometimes people just want to play in a place. And yes, the money's important, but they look at the financial security
Would
and the
not
term.
settle
Brett
for
Howden
four and
is
a
a great
half. Or,
example.
yeah, would not. I would. That's settling.
Fine, but again, what it is to me and you might not be what it is to Brett Howden or Keegan Colasar or Nicholas Waugh or Zach Whitecloud or Jack Eichel on a bigger scale. It's when you get what you want, then so be it. And if Adin Hill is happy going 3 times 5, if that makes him happy to stay in Vegas, good on him. I
No
don't know
way.
if that's the right number, but what I will
No
say,
way.
Tony, is I don't know how if we felt Adin Hill was called a $4 million goalie before the Four Nations. There is nothing that anyone can do in 3 games and 3 appearances, 4 appearances to all of a sudden become a $6 to $7 million AAV player. It just doesn't. You can't have that big of a reaction, and we haven't seen the entire season from Adin yet. His historically, injuries are a factor. He's now every time he takes the net, he is increasing his career high in starts and regular season appearances. Credit Adin for his offseason work ethic. I think he got himself in a better situation. There was a lot of stories about that out there. Credit him for managing his body throughout this regular season. And of course, luck's going to play a factor for injuries for everybody in the National Hockey League. And right now, Adin's on the right side of that. But I'll maintain if we felt $4 million, which I don't know, that might have been a bit low, but nothing could have happened in the last 3 games to push him into 6 to 7 territory. Now, if he has a strong end of the regular season, gets to 50-55 appearances and keeps that save percentage in the high 906 range, 907 range, then yeah, we're talking, now we're talking a goalie that might warrant that type of number as a Stanley Cup winner. But right now, if that's pretty like this, if they announce a contract extension tomorrow, it's not going to be 6.5 AAV.
It'll be 6.
I think that's even still high, Tony.
Okay. Well, you have to, again, it's NCAA tournament time, and they're going to be talking a lot about a body of work. And so look at his body of work. And then the way that he does close late in the season, late in campaigns, and obviously in the cup run, I mean, he was there and he was effective. So we'll keep an eye on it. I
And he
just
was
think
good in the playoffs last year, too. I mean, obviously, he
Yeah.
didn't get the starter's net at the beginning, but when he did come in relief of Logan Thompson might not be the word, but when the net did go to him, shutout in Game 6 when the Golden Knights' backs were against the wall, and Game 7, just 2 goals given up, neither of which you can really hang on him, I don't think. And so, yeah, I mean, listen, Adin Hill is a very good goaltender when he is on, and this is a new version of him as far as
it's got to be the new. It's got to be the new pads, bro. It's got to be.
I mean, he's had a couple different sets of pads this season, so 100%. Really fast. Where is Adin Hill's numbers? Let's see.
Okay, let's just take a look at this there.
I'll tell you in 4 seconds. 4.
He is coming on strong late, and I think that he's if one thing I think one thing we can absolutely say now is that at this point, with again, it's the trade deadline coming. I bet you Kelly McCrimmon is off his back, at least for the moment. He can't compare him, to Logan Thompson or do anything like that right now.
Not at the moment, 100%, but at the end of the day, it's no different than buying a house. You're going to look at comparables and things like that, and there's a lot of different goaltenders that you're going to look at, and Logan might not be a fair comparison, but there's other goalies who, Blackwood is someone we're going to look at for a little bit. And our goalies comparing themselves to Adin Hill when they're getting their extensions. I don't know. Adin Hill 17th overall in the league at save percentage at a 906. I'm assuming that's probably climbed about 1,000ths of a point, 1,000ths, about 1,000ths of a point over the last few games. Connor Hellebuyck, for comparison, is a 926.
No.
You mentioned Logan struggling a little bit as of late, but a 918.
Still
other
getting
goalies,
W's. Still getting W's. It doesn't matter.
yeah, no, other goalies with a similar body of work. Darcy Kemper 912, Vasilevsky 924. Dostal 911, Jake Markstrom 910. So Aiden's right there with a bunch of those goalies whose financial compensation ranges pretty highly. So we'll see.
Coming up next, it has been a little bit too quiet here at the trade deadline as it nears for VGK and the rest of the league coming up tomorrow. And we'll talk more about VGK and is it too quiet for a good reason after this on Locked On Golden Knights. Welcome back on Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Tomorrow's WTF day. Line up those comments as you usually do. They're pretty good. Why do I get blasted every time I pick against VGK? And then I get blasted, probably they double down on me, if you will, when I take VGK to win a game. It's crazy. I cannot win. In any event, we appreciate you tuning in wherever you might be. And please subscribe to our Locked On Golden Knights YouTube channel. Did you see yesterday the NHL Network put out potential VGK deadline fits, that graphic? So they had Joel Armia, Anthony Beauvillier. They had Kyle Palmieri, NHL Network, Kyle Palmieri, Brandon Tanoff, and I think the only name out of that scrap pile would probably be Braden Shen for me. Anyone else on that list stand out to you?
I don't know. I mean, Kelly McCrimmon is playing a very good game of poker right now. He's campaigning that, we're just going to, maybe just kind of coast into this one and don't anticipate anything major happening. And what you don't see happening are Friedman and all those fellas putting out their, tire kicking from Vegas conversations happening.
I hate that term.
Again, that's a lot of.
I hate that term, kicking tires. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, you don't hear a lot of phone calls being made, and Vegas, VGK's name was coming up a lot over the last 3 weeks. Marchand was obviously a big one, and some other names as well, Braden Shen. And then I mentioned John Jason Peterka just because of all the scouting the Golden Knights have been doing in Buffalo. You're not even really seeing the reports coming out about VGK scouting other teams and stuff right now. So I'm still not a believer that McCrimmon is not going to make something splashy. And again, when I say splashy, I'm not talking an Anthony Mantha, Teddy Bluger type of acquisition. I saw something, I forgot who put it out there. I don't know if it was a national reporter or just a random, but it was basically highlighting the trade deadline deal that was made that would put each team over that did put each team over the hump over the last 8 or 9 seasons. And of course, Barbashev was a little before the deadline, so it wasn't technically a deadline acquisition. It was like a week or a couple weeks before, if I'm not mistaken. But then you had Bluger and Jonathan Quick, which certainly helped bolster things. Both were necessary pieces down the stretch. There's not a world that exists where the Golden Knights don't at least do a couple secondary deals. But again, the only thing I could assume is if for some strange reason McCrimmon doesn't do anything besides a role player, whether it's on the defensive or on the offensive side, if he doesn't do anything besides that, that tells me one thing, and that's that Shea Theodore is closer to returning than we think. That's the only thing that would make sense, because that would erase all the available money the Golden Knights have. William Karlsson's been skating on the ice. I think he logged a full practice session yesterday. I think they said today might be some type of optional skate, the way Cassie alluded to it in the postgame. Karlsson will be back on the ice today, and they're probably going to work him pretty hard so they can see where they are. So this can go one of two ways. Carlson and Theodore return sometime between now and game 82. So there's no money to spend, maybe $1 million to go out there and blow or something like that on a complimentary piece. Or the other side, Carlson blows a tire today. They're not kicking a tire. Carlson blows a wheel today, and Shea Theodore is not going to make it back until sometime around game 1 of the playoffs. Insert LTIR joke here. And McCrimmon all of a sudden is going to release the Kraken, and all of a sudden here we go.
Here's my new theory, from observing, what's been going on. VGK might very well, if they do, in fact, stand pat, that is McCrimmon saying, hear me out for just a moment, that's him saying they're on this wave in which they're winning, and McCrimmon is saying this team has potential to win the cup. That's all I could think of if they do, in fact, stand pat. And that, to me, would be perhaps the rationale behind it, because they're winning games, and they're doing it, again, without Shea Theodore. And, well, Carlson wasn't worth anything anyway beforehand. Let's face it. He wasn't. He's not going to be a difference maker down the stretch. If it's not broke, don't fix it, I think could be the theory that they're prescribing to.
It's not broke, don't fix it in the regular season is fair. In the postseason, it's irrelevant at that point, because it's a new season, and what happened down the stretch means absolutely nothing, because it's a new season, it's a new circumstance, everything changes come the playoffs. And not knowing the health situations on the present March 6th of William Karlsson might be a little more defined. Karlsson, let's just assume he's going to get back out there and be okay. Shea Theodore, on the other hand, we know is probably not going to make it back until sometime in round 1 at this point. It might not even be in round 1. It could be longer, to be completely fair. The timetable is a variable right now. Shea Theodore still, as of March 6th, not been placed on LTIR as well, which is kind of strange. At this moment right now, assuming no more moves are made as far as LTIR is concerned, the Golden Knights have $2.3 million to work with. That could swell into somewhere between $7 and $8 million if William Karlsson goes, or if Shea Theodore goes to LTIR. So we'll see exactly how that side of it plays out here. And I don't see a world that exists where, let's assume Shea Theodore and Karlsson are not healthy enough to get to play down the stretch, which means they're going to struggle out of the gates in the playoffs if either of them make it back. I don't see a world that exists where the Golden Knights would win a Stanley Cup without those two players, without Theodore and William Karlsson, without making any moves, splashy types of moves I'm talking, not depth pieces by any means. So I can't see McCrimmon, for lack of a better term, blowing this with all this money available, and there's so many big names being talked about. You have a rising salary cap, so you have an opportunity to take on players that maybe have a little bit bigger contract hits that you don't like, or on the flip side, players who have expiring contracts you can negotiate with. McCrimmon did a very good job of shoring up the future with Tomas Hertl, who's been incredibly better than expected. We both were wrong on that one so far. We'll definitely take a punch for that. Hertl's been great, leading scorer on the team right now.
Crazy.
Best interviewer as well. Funny watching him chirp with Biz in the post game yesterday.
Post game was really funny.
That was better than anything else I've ever seen.
He just kept smiling. That's it. Like he did. He made everyone on that set happy. Yeah, he was good. He was very good.
But putting a bow on it, I mean, the Golden Knights are one injury away from this completely backfiring. And if Kelly McCrimmon did not make any moves in the next 28 hours from now, whatever the math is, 29 hours from now, if McCrimmon doesn't make any moves, and let's just assume something terrible happens to Mark Stone or Jack Eichel, looking at historical stats and their injury histories, or a Dorofeev goes down, or a Braden McNabb or a Noah Hannafin goes down right now. Who would have thought Noah Hannafin goes down? The season's over, right, Tony? I mean, what a world we're living in right now.
He's so much more comfortable now filling in for Shea Theodore.
He needs those touches. So McCrimmon's got to do something. Long story longer, if McCrimmon doesn't make something splashy, it will be a blown trade deadline.
It'll be a blown trade deadline. I did a little shift there. I think he'll be happy if he feels comfortable with this current squad.
Well, why not make it
and
better?
the only name right now that really does seem to fit might be Shen. Might be Shen.
Right, but there's also names that were never even brought up. Who, as of 11, like
let's get Tanev.
Tanev would be great. Either tandem would be great. I mean, listen, Hurdle's name, yes, they started kicking tires on Hurdle about 48 hours before the deadline, if memory serves me right, the way they discussed it. Of course, they kept that quiet and it didn't even come out until the deal was done. So there could be something that no one even sees coming, which is the likely path of Kelly McCrimmon.
So, like for Kyle Palmieri, the Islanders are what they're saying is they want a top 6 player, they want a future player, a prospect, and they want a first round draft pick, and that's way too much. So I think they're going to get out of doing any deals with the New York Islanders. I really
34 years old, 41 points, topped off at 54 points. You can want in one hand and poop in the other and see which one fills first, I guess. New York Islanders.
Enough of that, bro. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Kind of got me a little grossed out there. We appreciate everyone tuning in, especially our everydayers. What does that shirt say, bro? Is it
It's Wordle. Knows words.
Oh, knows words.
Wordle.
Okay.
Come on,
All
Wordle.
right. I don't know how to play that game. Again, don't forget tomorrow on Friday, it's WTF Day. What the Friday? I almost slipped, but I can't because it's Lent and I gave up swearing. And then on Saturdays, of course, sometimes it's the Chris and Chris Jr. Show, the YouTube exclusive. Please subscribe there. For my man, Chris Golick, I'm Tony Cardasco. Have a terrific day, everyone. We'll see you again tomorrow on Friday for WTF Day right here on Locked On Golden Knights. And please take care.